Hi, my name's Jody. I'm the survivor of a mental health nightmare or horror story. But this horror story has a happy ending. I want to share with you my story of hopelessness and recovery, where I went from hopelessness at rock bottom to awesomeness, which is where I am today. I want to share this story with you to give you hope, to give others hope, to help people to understand that it doesn't matter how far down we go or how long we've been living there. We can rise up again. Within us is the power to rise above any situation or struggle and become our strongest versions ever. I'm living proof of that. Now, as a disclaimer, a bit of a warning, my story may trigger you. I'm going to try to share an overview here, not go into any of the nitty-gritty details, because it is a horror story. I was living in hell, and I had been there for a very long time, full of darkness. Darkness all around me, darkness within me. And in my hopelessness, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. All of that has been transformed. Now it's all light, all around me and within me. And I'm so grateful. So I share this story with you, with hope in mind. So if you find yourself being triggered by these words, please take a couple of deep breaths. Just hang in there and know that this story has a beautiful and happy ending. "12 years ago, in the late spring of 2010, I woke up strapped to a hospital bed after my third suicide attempt in 10 days. Serious suicide attempts. The first one landed me in the emergency room. I walked out with an IV still attached to me because they put me in a hallway and left me alone. My second attempt was less serious. I woke up in a pool of vomit in my living room. The third attempt, after a coma, I woke up strapped to a hospital bed. I was living in hell, and I had been there for a very long time. I had been in the mental health system for 13 years. 10 of those years I was being polydrugged. Because when I was 21, I gave birth to a stillborn child. To make a long story short, this completely destroyed me, and I ended up having a complete mental breakdown 1 year later. I voluntarily admitted myself into a hospital where I was labeled with 7 mental illness diagnoses, and I was medicated. Quite quickly, things got worse. Within 3 years, I became psychotic. This is where the antipsychotics were brought in. Many pills, many symptoms, a lot of suffering. I'm not going to get into any of that suffering here. Many of you know what I'm talking about. It's ugly. It's dark. So when I hit rock bottom, I was taking 26 prescribed pills a day. I was on 13 different medications, 4 benzodiazepines at the same time. I was also taking heart medication because my blood pressure was through the roof, and I was taking stomach medication because I had a lot of digestive issues. I weighed 200 pounds. I was done. I couldn't keep living like that. So when I woke up strapped to this hospital bed, I went from hopelessness and despair to, now what? I couldn't even kill myself. So something had to change. I had to change. I was blessed to have a psychologist who wanted to help me. And she said to me, Jody, I want to help, but I need to get you off of some of these medications. And that was brand new. Getting off of some of the medications was nothing I had ever heard before. I had been polydrugged for 10 years, my whole 20s. I was almost 32 at rock bottom. I didn't know who I was because I'd been medicated for so long. So I really thought getting off of all of these drugs was a good idea. And so there began my journey of tapering. It took me 2 years to taper. I wish I had gone slower because it was really, really hard. Getting off of all of those drugs was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I didn't have a lot of support. I was very much on my own. But I made it through. I muscled through. I plowed through. And as my mental health increased, the drug fog lifted. I began to feel better. I was in group therapy, learning skills of how to cope with the many, many issues that I was suffering because of the trauma I had experienced as a younger person. The trauma of being a mental health patient for 13 years. I was learning skills. My mental health was improving, but my physical health took a severe nosedive. I'd been living with a chronic pain issue since I was 6 years old. That was finally diagnosed as fibromyalgia just before I hit rock bottom. So the physical pain increased. My digestive system almost completely shut down. I couldn't stop throwing up. My skin was on fire, my bones were on fire, my hair was on fire, my eyeballs, everything hurt. My brain almost completely shut down. I couldn't remember anything. All of my cognitive functioning was very, very poor. I actually was tested at one point, and all the tests came back impaired or borderline impaired. The results were so dismal, in fact, that the lady who read me my results, the lady who wrote the report, deemed it all as a cry for help because she didn't believe that it could be that bad. So 2.5 years after I stopped taking the psych meds, I was still so sick. I was in so much pain, so much mental anguish, so much emotional turmoil. I was still in a state of hopelessness because as far as I had come, I didn't know how to get better. And at one point, I surrendered. I was watching inspirational YouTube videos, trying to help myself. With some success, I was transforming my negative attitude, my pessimistic, cynical attitude, into a more positive state of being. And in the beginning, this was very helpful. I was watching a lot of videos. And this one guy that I really enjoyed listening to, Ralph Smart from Infinite Waters, he kept saying the word guru, and I didn't understand. So I looked up have to smile at this point because it's so crazy. Because as an atheist, I looked up and said, if I need a guru, please show me. At the time, I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know who I was talking to. This was very instinctual, very primal. But my prayer was answered. A few weeks after that, I was at a women's health show. And I was handed a book called Soul Healing Miracles. And in that book was an invite to a chanting meditation locally in a hotel near me. It was called Empower Yourself with Self-Healing. I was desperate. I showed up. And that was the beginning of me stepping into the driver's seat of my healing journey. I've experienced many, many miracles since. Almost every aspect of my life has been completely transformed. And I'm ready to share that journey with the world. So this is just the beginning. I thank you so much for hearing me today, and I look forward to sharing more with you in the future. Until then, take care.